Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I am Inquisitor Caveat Ventus, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is my report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee, Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Laura Elizabeth as Lyric, and Tyler Hewitt as Alto. My report shows that Inquisitor Valentyne survived the crash of his vessel while receiving visions of the Emperor's death. Meanwhile, Lyric and Alto were forced into his presence by the breaching of their hive. Will this trio find common ground while battling deadly mutants? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From the writings of Cullis Pollitt, former General, Admiral, and Sergeant. When they announced they were building these fucking domes, everyone got so excited. And I gotta tell you, I have led campaigns from one side of this galaxy to the other. And never have I heard a stupider idea than building a dome on an irradiated planet. When you think about what happens to organic matter on an irradiated planet, and you're telling me that a bunch of glass is going to just keep that from coming in and fucking up all the idiots who decide to live there because they want something fancy? Well, I'll tell you what happens. What happens is exactly what fucking happened to Dome number 9. Was it Fucko's Glory or whatever? Yeah, that disaster. I mean, sure, no one expected a ship to drop on it, but really, the mutants of the Outlands, that they should have been fucking expecting. This book is no longer available at Imperial libraries. Welcome back to the Valentyne Heresy. As with all great historical events, this one begins with a relatively simple matter of survival. 3 solitary figures against a veritable wave of irradiated, mutated humans who were not so lucky to get to live inside Galen's Glory, the domed hive city that is currently imploding all around you as massive spacefaring vessel meets big, poorly planned metropolis. The 3 of you are unlikely allies in a lot of ways, and yet circumstances have thrust you together. And knowing that your only way off planet and away from the horrors that are unfolding will require kind of all of you, you suddenly find yourselves a team. And as Valentyne put it, official members of the Inquisition. So congratulations, Lyric and Alto, on your battlefield promotions. Let us fight! I'm not a fan of worrying too much about how initiative runs here. I'm going to say, Valentyne, I think you have the initiative in this situation only because of the 3... You came straight out of a combat situation into another combat situation. So I think in a lot of ways, like, this is just the same encounter for you.
Yeah.
So I'll give you sort of first turn. We're going to use the hovel that you were kind of trying to access as kind of the north point. So if you imagine kind of almost a circular map, we've got the hovel kind of at the north tip of it. You guys are near that. It was under an overpass. The overpass was hit by Valentyne's pod, so it is now collapsed. But basically, you've got kind of the sloping rampway up over the hovel. The dome itself, the sort of closest, I guess, wall of the dome, is beyond that, sort of further north. Behind you is the hive city proper. Now, keep in mind, you're still in the hive. It's a sprawl, but I would say, if we're talking rings, you're 3 rings from the the wall. So you're within sight, but it's still a bit of a distance away. Unfortunately, getting here gave the mutants enough time to kind of spill in from all the increasingly cracked walls. Plus, one of the engines literally took out half of one of the retaining walls, so they're just fully spilling in now. If we're looking north to the hovel, to the west, or the left, if we're looking straight ahead, is where the crash pod is. So that's where Valentyne and Eugene just struggled out of. There are more pods falling that way, and you can see figures starting to climb out of those. There are no mutants in that direction yet, but you can hear screams coming from that direction. Now, if we look south and to the east, that's where we've got kind of full-on rubble overpass with mutants kind of spilling out of it. So the majority of them are there. However, one is slithering up the overpass over top of the hovel. So you're rapidly being surrounded. In your immediate vicinity, there are 6. All of them are at equal distance right now, and there are more coming up behind them. Valentyne.
Okay, so we're getting hit with like a wave. Like this isn't like a we stand and fight and reign victorious. This is like a or is this like a wave of the first wave? Maybe we got a little space.
I would say the best way to think of this narratively is you've just found out about the astral line as a way possibly off planet. However, Kel, being a careful lady, didn't exactly make it clear how to get there or how to get out of the dome. So, Alto, you've got the means in your hands to figure out how to get out of here, but currently you guys could run, but where the fuck are you going to run to? Because basically the city is imploding, but mutants are spilling in from outside, and you're literally between a rock and a hard place. So technically running is possible, but where? Yeah.
Okay. I've overheard the thing about the line. Did I?
For ease of narrative, yeah, I think there was some the bickering that Tyler and Laura literally did during it, I think was throughout to a point that all the available information has been bickered out to you.
Cool. Tom, did I reload my pistol while I was in the pod before I came out?
I'm not going to give you a narrative encounter that strips you of your... It would be like if a game like The Last of Us is like, oh yeah, sorry, he used 4 bullets in that cutscene, so no bullets for you anymore. In fact, you owe me 2 bullets. It's like, fuck off.
Cool. All right. Then I think what I would say to them is, do you entirely know where this place is going to be? And then he just like raised his pistol and just start shooting at the guy, like the distance mutants kind of thing. He'd be ready for chainsword and free hand for like when they get close, but he'd stick to range until they were there. And then basically, yeah, I think it's just a question of, say, do you know where we're going to this line? I think that'd be terribly useful.
Alto, kiddo, you got to figure this out.
Well, I mean, we got a map, but the city's looking, less and less like the map.
Yeah, but
right, so quick suggestion. How about we put him inside the pod, you hold the pod door, and then I'll stand here and keep the mutants busy. Everyone stay alive now. This is going to be a great deal of fun.
All right, and I just kind of, grab Alto by the shoulders, and I'm kind of like running with him. And the mutants are just like
they sound like dogs.
Ripley! I've never heard this sound before. I don't care for it. And by I don't care for it, I mean, I'm sorry, Your Holiness, Holy Emperor, I totally love it. Great sounding mutants. Thank you for putting them in my path. No criticism.
No notes.
Wonderful
Someone
Emperor.
At the door for
wonderful
Ripley?
mutants.
Nope, probably in the hall. Anyway.
So, I don't know if you guys have seen bolt weapons before, because they are considered pretty rare in the Imperium. So, they fire with a very loud, like, bark from the weapon, and then you actually hear them when they hit the target. There's like a crump of an internal explosion because they are mass reactive rounds. So they fire with their own propellant, and then when they collide, they do like a mini explosion.
Oh, wow.
Okay, great. So you're just blowing up leech people.
If I hit them.
Yeah.
East crossed.
Well, let's find out how that goes. All right. So, Ryan, we're going to say these are at kind of longish range for a pistol. So that is going to be a 3 purple base challenge rating. Having just survived a crash from space, I'm going to give you 1 black setback dice, just to make this a bit harder. And I'm going to give you a 2nd setback dice because you're still feeling the effects of the warp. And then beyond that, you're going to be using your...
It's agility, so I've got 3
agility
in that.
and your ranged light, I believe.
Yes, so I get 1 green die and 2 upgraded yellow die. And then Tom, I actually have a power called Tempered Will, where I can remove 1 black die inflicted by critical injuries, being disoriented, or fear.
This is absolutely the right sense for that. So I think the way we'll play that is it's weirdly... it's one of those things. It's like, if you go through like a bad breakup or something, but then like you just get to go back to work, and even if you hate your job, you're like, oh, it's just nice to do this fucking data entry that I hate, but like better than thinking about my shattered relationship and ripping up my, future kids' names. You shake off, even though you're still kind of forced with the after image. You checked your fingies and toes on the crash pod to make sure that you weren't like afflicted by the warp, and it seems like everything's where it should be. So barring Eugene learning how to like fucking walk or something, you're probably in pretty good shape as warp events go. The rest of what happened up there is starting to come back slowly in terms of what you remember, but now it's neither the time nor the place, and honestly it's going to be a pretty good day, so it's fine. You've got people to protect, there's a way off world, this is all good. So you just stow all that, and even though you're still feeling the effects of it, you realize if you just focus on shooting mutants, which weirdly is kind of your version of data entry, you'll be fine. Awesome. So you, your sort of cybernetic eyes focus down the sight of your bolt pistol, and you see the first leech person kind of come up over the ridge of the road. Open fire.
I pull the trigger. Oh my god! The end result: 4 failures.
Oh,
Yeah, sometimes it be like that.
All right, so you blast this leech person with your bolt pistol. The bolt flies true. The leech person explodes in like a Men in Black style like goo burst, and you see all of them undulate, almost with pain. And then you see spikes begin to grow out of their skin, and they all begin to move twice as fast. It would seem that whatever they've evolved into might have some kind of hive mind and possibly some kind of defensive measure. So we have gone from 6, you killed 1, so we're down to 5, and now there are 9.
What a fun ability, gifted to them by undoubtedly the darkness in the universe. And then he's just going to like press the ruby on his thing, and the refractor field will spring back up around him. To be clear, you can see through it. It's not like a wall. It's just got a bit of a shimmer around where like the light can catch it.
Got it.
Cool. Okay, so Lyric, I think I'm probably going to give you next initiative because I feel like since Alto is distracted with the map and with kind of the puzzle to be solved, he's not like, it's like I've read a number of books while walking around the subway. I understand the distracted Belle from Beauty and the Beast walk all too well, and it's like the trying to read while stumbling and being pulled, and like there's mutant monsters everywhere, the city's collapsing, but he's just like, cool, I'm gonna solve this.
what a precious boy.
So you we'll toss it to you. What would you like to try and accomplish in your turn?
I think I want to basically lay down like a smattering of fire. So I think I would like to, I'm going to draw my auto pistol and attempt to do auto fire. So I hope you can like kind of help me figure out how this works because I haven't done this before. So it says I can trigger it by spending 2 advantage. So that's like basically if I roll to hit and I get 2 advantage, it triggers?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
So advantage is... weirdly, as I said, a lot of the time I'll just narrate what's going on, but it is also a form of currency. So you can spend advantage to execute a critical. So if your weapon says, for example, if it's critical 3, that means if you have 3 advantage, you can blow all 3 to trigger a critical injury on your opponent. Or weapons have special effects, whether that is auto fire, various other things.
So I'll want to activate it. So I have to increase the difficulty by adding a purple.
Okay. I'll say they're moving. You are actively moving away. So I'm going to say that you were at 4, but you remove a purple, so now you're at 3. So that's 3 purple for the difficulty.
3 purple.
Tom, did you say there was one coming over the hovel behind us?
We'll say that's the one that.
Oh, then that's the 100% the one that I wanted.
There was one, but then you failed 4 times. So now we'll say there's 2.
Well, then I'm going to try to hit those 2.
Great. Love it. So 3 purple as minus the 1 for your. Or sorry, you increased by 1.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. All right. So that's 5 purple.
Okay, so 5. Fuck.
Ay. And then what is your agility?
My agility is 3.
3? Okay. And what is your ranged light?
Believe it or not, I didn't make any investments in ranged light because I'm a fucking idiot.
No, because you're very agile.
You have other skills.
I do have other skills.
Agile idiot.
I'm skilled. I have ranks in heavy, ranged heavy. That I know
We'll
that doesn't
have to find you a heavier gun. Okay, totally fair.
She strapped weights to her pistol.
So this is literally what story points exist for. So I've rolled the dice, and despite Ryan's terrible roll, I rolled well on your behalf. So you have 5 that you can spend. I have 1.
So I wanna upgrade 2 of my green to yellows. So
Sounds
that would
good.
be using 2 story points, right?
Yes, that is correct. And I'll keep track of these. So when in doubt, feel free to ask. Great. Okay, so you upgrade 2 of your green to yellow, which is your entire way of life is disappearing, and there's only one way out. And also,
Yes.
weirdly, you spent up until now your whole life being the super capable one who really has this. If you get outside of the glory hole, it's kind of actually more Alto's world. So weirdly, this is I need to defend him so he can work whatever the fuck magic he can work.
Yeah.
So with that, you open fire. I'm just gonna see if you need any other blues or setback dice. No, I think we're good.
All right. So I want to fire some shit.
Blam blam.
Just
Do it up.
shooting turds out of that gun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all it is. Auto pistol.
It's a
firing
hive world.
shit.
This makes sense.
Bullets of crap. All right. 1 success and 1 threat.
All right, cool. So, Laura, what's the damage on an auto pistol?
5.
All right, so that's 6 big points of damage.
Yeah. So I do not get.
You do not get to activate.
I do not get to
auto-fire.
activate auto fire. Okay, cool. That's okay. I'm just glad there was a success in there.
Okay, so. Okay. So you blast one of the long grasping arms off one of the leech mutants.
Yes.
Seem to have done a good hit. So it's like still like dragging itself like a weird Del Toro monster, but it has been slowed. One of the interesting things about the way the system deals with minions as a concept, as kind of like low level enemies you fight, is rather than the D&D model of like here's 15 goblins with 3 HP. They each get a turn. They each have stats. Minions often fight as groups. So basically, you've done 6 points of damage to one of the minion groups. So just in case you're wondering why, like, hey, I thought I did a bunch of damage there. It's like, you did. Minions.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Alto, you are shoved hard by Lyric into a small gooey pod. And you kind of start to stumble as you come over the lip and find that there is a very pulped sort of human body splayed across the insides of this small pod. Here's my question: as you begin to trip, do you use the robot arm to catch yourself? Is that a thing your arm does?
It's not a strong arm. It's it's got a number of different sort of like jacks and things like that. It also has a series of vials with that can be filled with. Help me out here, Ryan.
It's like sacred oils.
Sacred
Basically,
oils
the
and like
idea
vapors
is,
for like christening or using on like technology to basically make it function.
Right. Okay, so
those are likely empty. I don't think I have any.
Yeah, no, I think that would be safe. I feel like, Tyler, I'm going to say that you have like a small amount in one of them, but it very much is like the dregs that were left over in one of these things. So enough to like maybe turn something on, but not proper machine. God bless it.
Yeah.
Technology in 40K is weird. There's a lot of religious stuff around it. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
You can read about it online. But yeah, okay. So it's not. I think in my head I had more of like a servo arm, but it's not that. It's like basically a multi-tool on a gimbaled arm.
Yes, it's more delicate. There is like a different kind of arm that is like you can like brace yourself with it and stuff like that, and even use it as like a melee weapon. This is not that.
Gotcha. Okay, so you do not brace. You trip and fall kind of like into this slushy pile, and yeah, you find a dead Navy officer who looks like she ping ponged around inside the or pinballed rather around inside the pod on the way down.
Ugh.
Yikes.
I'll scramble up to my feet and take out this map and try and kind of make heads or tails of it and get us going to where we need to.
Okay. So what are Alto's like key skills? Like what are your key characteristics?
On paper?
Yeah. Just for my own GM brain.
Yeah. So for characteristics, he has 4 points in agility, 3 points in intellect, cunning, and presence, and then 2 points in brawn and willpower. Okay,
well, I think this reads to me like an intellect type task.
Yep.
So let's go with that. I would give you astrocartography, which isn't, I mean, technically we're not in space, but it's the only kind of map-based thing. I might also give you...
Would you take, for example, like driving because he knows the roads in the area theoretically, or travel?
I don't think on this one, no. Only because it's not like this is definitely like a smuggler's route. It's not a pathway. Tyler, I would also take, it's not a intellect skill, so you take it or leave it. I would also take survival.
I'm good with survival.
Yeah, because I think, even though technically it's more about like, I need to find shelter in a storm, mutant leech people, kind of a storm, you know?
Yeah. So for survival, that's 3 green. Let me see if I can add anything to that.
So you have 3 story points available to you. I will give you 1 boost die for, I think for lack of a better term, eagerness. For someone who has kind of spent their whole life wanting to go, like, you're a pilot, like you drive things, and driving around in a hive is very much like, I mean, we both grew up in Mississauga here in Canada, and it's like, it's a whole strip leading up to a mall that's just nothing but stoplights. And in theory, it's a straightaway. So if you got all green lights, you could like fucking haul ass. But I just remember watching all these people in souped up cars be like, vroom, vroom, and just
very
like
loudly go from red light to red light. Yes.
Yeah. It's like, cool, you went a block.
It's like Manhattan.
Yeah. You can't exactly be fast or furious. You can be furious.
Need to clear the air here. Mississauga is not in any way like Manhattan, but traffic starting and stopping is similar to the
it's not the traffic's the problem. It's that it's a suburban sprawl with just stoplights everywhere. So it's people being like, all I see is road, and then they're just like hauling ass for 2 seconds to get to the next stoplight. It's very dumb. So Manhattan and Mississauga. That's a fun combo. Great. So go ahead, Tyler. I think there's some eagerness there. So 1 blue. Because Kel wrote this, I feel like she probably wrote it in a way you would understand. So I'm going to say 2 purple.
Okay.
But you're in a room full of blood, and there's mutants attacking, and the city's falling apart. So I'm going to spend a story point to upgrade one of those purples to a red.
Okay.
So you now have 4 available story points.
Boo.
Or, sorry, you have 3 available for the scene. You will have 4 available shortly.
Okay. I'm good to roll if that's all you want to add there.
Do it up.
2 successes, 1 threat.
All right, fantastic. You are able to track kind of the pathway she's laid out, and you can see that it actually seems to be part of the air purification duct system. So like the massive vents underground that are meant to kind of cycle the air. The entryway to this is not too far from here, kind of by design. It's through kind of the path of the falling pods, but you could probably make it there in 15-ish minutes on foot.
Okay. So I will basically like peek my head out the door of the pod and be like, I got it. We can be there in 15 minutes if we leave now.
You see an arm get blasted off one of the mutant leech people, and you see them starting to grow sort of barbs and defenses as they start to crawl up and over. For 1 point of threat, you feel something begin to tug at the hem of your pants.
I look down.
There is a severed arm that is kind of there's still some like tendons and stuff attached, but it is stretched far away from the body, and it is closing its fingers around the hem of your pant leg.
I kick it off.
As you do so, you hear a choked voice behind you, sort of just kind of gurgle from the shadows and just say, "Are you sure you don't want to stay? Or maybe you can join us amongst the stars."
I don't have like words to respond. Like it is too weird.
Do you look or do you just book it?
I think I probably just run.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
So you hop out of the pod. I assume you like slam the door on your way out.
Yeah.
Like the porthole on it is shattered, so it's not like it's fully sealed, but it's something at least.
Yeah. I'm just gonna close it behind me. Yeah.
Cool. So you kind of close the door, and you think you can hear kind of a gurgling laugh come from inside the pod.
Running faster.
So you're headed in the direction the map showed?
Yeah.
Cool. Leech people begin to close in. So given that their main focus is Lyric and Valentyne, we'll go with those first. Valentyne, what's what's the name of your field?
It's a refractor field.
Okay. What does the refractor field do?
It just adds 2 defense. Essentially, stuff can bounce off of it. It's not perfect, but it does increase the level of melee and ranged defense. I picture it, if you want to know, kind of like the shields they use in Dune, which is like it's very effective, but in a limited like physical capacity. So like it can slow down a blow, but not necessarily stop it.
You're talking like the Lynch Dunes, so they're just like weird, shitty CGI like tofu blocks that you can't really see through.
Imagine the intention the designer had, and then unfortunately,
so the Jodorowsky version. Yeah, gotcha. All right, cool.
It's funny, Ryan.
The
That's exactly
sketches
what I was
looked
thinking.
great.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So defense, if I'm not mistaken, adds
Challenge dice.
Challenge dice. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll be adding 2 black to my attacks.
Is it a ranged attack, Tom?
No, they are coming into melee distance.
Okay,
they,
cool.
They happily do not have ranged weapons.
With my chainsword in hand, my defense in melee is 3 because it's also defensive 1, so it adds.
Gotcha. All right, so you have a defensive 3. I've got 2 of them. They are that. You have defensive 3. Impressive.
He was trained as a commissar until like he was 20 something.
Until he wasn't. Oh, now I have to read the dice. Oh. All right, so that is a meaty roll. So I got a triumph, but I also rolled 3 failures. Well, actually, I rolled more than that, but there were a bunch of things that cancel each other out. So ultimately, I have 1 failure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think one of these things, like basically as soon as they start falling down onto the ground, they start like moving fast. Like it's that full creepy, like fucking clawing its way to you faster than you'd like thing. But again, you've got the chainsword out, and I think it's like you were like picking your targets, and then suddenly one of these things is on your feet, and just with a flourish of vague disdain that only a commissar could pull off, you just sweep the chainsword down and run it across the creature's guts. What's the damage on a chainsword?
Chainsword is damage 7.
7. Okay, so
That's with everything added. That's my like strength plus the damage.
Yeah. I'm not going to give you the full thing because this is just on a failure. I'm going to say they take 3.
Cool.
So it's just a quick sweep, but you're feeling good. Meanwhile, oh God, Laura, I just cycled every other character name you have. Lyric, it's like Alan, Jennifer, Gwendolyn. Fuck. So Lyric, you have a couple rushing in on you. What is your defense?
1.
Okay.
And 1.
Great. That totally makes sense. So, as you're sort of snapping off shots, these things are moving much faster on the ground than you're used to, and also you're used to fighting purely human opponents.
Yes.
So things moving at like a kind of mutated awful speed are not quite your tempo. All right, so I got 1 success and 2 advantage.
Oh, shit.
So that will be 4 points of damage to you. What is your threshold or your soak?
My soak is 2.
Okay, so that's sorry, I said 3 points of damage, right? Or 4?
You said 4.
So you take 2 points of damage.
So where did that goes into? Is that wounds?
Wounds, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have your base wounds, and then kind of how many you take, and then there's also strain, which is like essentially your mental capacity. Cool. So things like social encounters can affect that. The warp, insanity, just being fucking tired. I don't know, being a human alive right now really affects your strain. Bleh. Okay, so one of these things jumps at you, and I think you actually like block it fairly effectively. Like you have your gun in hand, but you kind of drop into like a fighter stance. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, because it's like made of spikes, like the spikes are coming out of it, it just kind of almost embraces you, and you just feel the spikes kind of start to like press against the sort of limited armor you're wearing, and then you feel one of those talons that Kel showed you just dig into your back. And I'm going to say that on the next time these things attack you, they will have an advantage because of the extra advantage I rolled. Valentyne, you see Alto take off running.
Great. How many of these things are on me? Like how?
There are, you're in combat with 3.
Okay, well then I can't really just back off or they're going to jump on me. So there's no option of just running away. So I think this is just like, the moment of just like as he's flourishing with the sword, it's like the pistol goes away and the second hand comes to the sword, and now he's got that moment of just being like, oh, I do love when the training pays off. And he'll just start essentially battling his way backwards. And I think the reason he's so satisfied is they're probably, in a Scholar Progenium, there'd be a lot of training. Like, usually they're pretty well funded. If he also had access to the Inquisition version, I feel like he would have been very well trained. And these things probably move like Tyranids. And I'm betting the combat droids that he's had to engage with would have a pattern to be like crawling, sprinting floor dwellers. So it's just like chainsword battling while just working his way backwards towards probably Lyric and then Alto, because if Lyric dies, he doesn't know if he can hang on to the loyalty of Alto.
Yeah. Yeah, so realistically, these things move like a weird, somewhere between like a Tyranid and some of the sort of chaos mutants you've encountered. But yeah, vaguely gene stealery.
Yeah, like it's not super specific. He's only fought droids that had a program. Like I don't.
Oh no, for sure. I think this falls well. No, it falls well within the realm though, where it's just like, oh yeah, it's a did if it didn't have legs. Cool. I know how that goes. Let's go.
Yeah. Cool.
Wicked. Okay, so Ryan, there'll be 2 purple. I'm going to give you a setback dice, so a black dice, because you're struggling backward. Like you're not fighting forward, you're fighting back. Yeah, that's it for me. You have 4 story points available.
Cool. Yeah, I'll spend a story point just because I think he needs to impress these 2 that he's necessary, because saying you're an Inquisitor is a really great deal if you're dealing with like high level administration, and like random street people would not give a shit.
Oh, it's a good way to get your fancy ass robbed. I think is
Yeah, so I've got 3 yellow from my end. So let's see what happens. 1 advantage, 1 failure.
Interesting. Okay, so you start to fall back. You're kind of beating a tactical retreat. I think the training is giving you the sort of tactical knowledge you need, but much like most things, the reality of it is so different. Namely, for example, the droids weren't slimy and sprouting spikes. Those are not necessarily in the combat projections. So I think what I'll say is you fail to hit any of them. So that's kind of the cost of the failure. But with the advantage, you do manage to kind of break back to where Lyric is. So now the 2 of you are kind of shoulder to shoulder. That said, she does have one of these things literally wrapped around her.
Yeah.
Lyric.
I think I kind of have to brass knuckle this guy.
That would be advisable.
I think that's just like, just going to try to like right to the temple. And to be clear, I basically always have my brass knuckles on. Like this, it's not even something I gotta like pull out.
Yeah.
I'm just
some
fucking
people
ready.
wear wedding rings. Some people wear brass knuckles. I get it.
Exactly.
Whatever your flavor.
All right, so I'm just gonna go straight to the head. So, what is what's the difficulty on this?
Yeah,
4 still?
No. So it's a
okay.
melee attack. So you don't have to worry about range bands or cover or any of that shit. So it's 2 purple. So base melee is always 2 purple. And I'm going to spend a story point to upgrade one of those purple to a red.
Yikes.
You have 3 available to you.
Okay. I am... do you know what? I'll actually use 1
Okay.
to upgrade my last green to a yellow.
And I'm going to give you 1 boost dice, so 1 blue, for Valentyne's help as he kind of falls back shoulder to shoulder. Because Ryan rolled an advantage, so it kind of makes sense that would carry over to here.
Super.
Also,
right.
for the record, I won't always math it out that way. Just early on, I want to make sure that you kind of understand where my head's at when I'm like,
cool.
And then you get 2 black and 1 blue. Instead, I'll just be like,
No,
it's 2 blue and a purple. Go.
That helps. End result is 3 successes.
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
Huzzah.
All right. So, what is the damage on the brass knuckles?
Damage is 4.
4. Okay.
And
so
I also get so it's disorient for 3.
Okay.
So a target hit by the attack is disoriented for 3 rounds. So it adds 1 challenge die to all the skill checks they perform.
Great.
The next 3 rounds.
So I'm gonna say you just fucking straight up, like it's a tight uppercut, but still just like bam. And you just like, you're aiming for the face and you realize this thing doesn't really have a face. So instead, you adjust at the last second, not to kind of like try and hit the like uppercut under the jaw, but rather like uppercut into the mouth.
Yeah.
So you just like punch it in the side of the mouth, and the thing kind of its hands uncurl. And as it falls back, Valentyne just fucking straight up batter ups it with the chainsword. So just like catches it, and like as the chain blade is like cutting through it, just kind of uses that to throw this thing into the hovel, the sort of wreckage of the hovel. The two of you are now clear of enemies. They're closing in, but you've got room to move. I assume you're both going to fall back.
100%. It's just like getting to Alto.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'd say Valentyne would follow. He'd just be firing behind him at whoever was like the front person, but priority's running. It's one of those like when they get within 5 feet, take a shot, but move.
Gotcha. All right. So now that the Gilead's fist has like fully plowed into the city, you're in classic big thing is falling over territory. So the hive city is imploding. So you've got kind of the dust billowing out of that, but also you hear that classic like as the superstructure of the massive space vessel begins to creak, it's basically it's go time. So what I'm going to need from all three of you, please, is let's get some agility going on here as you. Was it Rogue Nation? No, it's Ghost Protocol, where Tom Cruise has to like outrun a sandstorm. Right, Darude's Sandstorm. He has to just outrun that song, which we know you can't.
You can't.
So it's that you're just like the city's imploding, the outside is coming in, the sand is being blasted in at the same time, like dirt and debris is being blasted out. It's a bad day in the dome. So I need agility, please, and
Would you take a streetwise, do you think, to be able to figure out where we need to go?
Sure, yeah, take a streetwise. I guess basically I'll take either athletics and brawn or agility and
coordination?
Yeah, coordination. Thank you. That's perfect.
Okay.
I was like, there's got to be an agility-related skill for dodging things. Where's my dex save?
What's our difficulty, Tom?
It's things are about to get very bad, but they aren't quite there yet, so it's going to be a difficulty of 3.
All right, so still hard, which is good. I think I will use... How many story points do we have, Tom?
There are 3 available.
I will use one of them.
Okay.
Because I think the Inquisitor is fated to get the hell out of here. He needs to save the Emperor. This is not just a regular run.
Also, I spent all that time setting up your quest. If you die in a sandstorm, I'm going to have to rethink the name. Thus ended the Valentyne Heresy in a cloud of sand and disappointed listenership.
So the sand has not arrived yet, right?
I mean, we're kind of Calvin balling how all this is working, but it's one of those things where the hive is also dense enough and big enough that when the ship crashed into it, like it hit and now everything's imploding, but everything is happening fairly slowly because it's just literally like it's just so fucking dense that there's a wave, but it's still being caught up by all the shops, and like Bunk's cabin like can take at least part of the sandstorm. So it's just like, you know, you've got this.
We're Bruce Wayne as you see it coming, but he hasn't run into it yet. If we want to use a Batman v Superman reference.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, you're that. You're Mission Impossible. You're Brendan Fraser fighting the Mummy. You're Tom Cruise as the Mummy. There's lots of Tom Cruise apparently because he designed this module.
Cool. So just 3 purple. We're good.
Just 3 purple. Would any of the rest of you like to spend story points to improve your odds?
Not on this roll. I'm good.
Cool. Roll them bones.
I got 3 successes, 1 advantage.
Fuck. All right.
The Inquisitor has 2 successes and 1 threat.
Okay.
I have, holy shit, 2 successes, 1 advantage, and 1 triumph.
Oh, damn.
You're Sonic the Hedgehog.
Seriously, wow.
Wow. Okay.
Because I got to use my shortcut talent.
Oh, interesting.
Basically, yeah, it lets me add a boost die, which is basically like, because I know the cities, like in urban environments, when I'm escaping, basically when I'm like running away from something, it's like that I know it so well that I can like lead us somewhere.
You're Aladdining it.
Yeah,
Or Jason Bourning it.
Yeah.
Or any forgettable Assassin's Creed charactering it.
You're Tom Cruising it.
Honestly, yeah.
Parkour. Great. That's awesome. Now I'm imagining you like pressing X to slide over things a lot.
100%. 100%.
I could go around, or I could treat it like TJ Hooker's car and just slide over the.
She does a lot of running and sliding.
Great. Cool. And Ryan, you rolled 1 threat. Is that correct?
Yeah, 2 successes, 1 threat.
Okay. So Alto and Lyric, both of you know the hive pretty well, and even I'll also say, even if you're unfamiliar with a particular street, the logic of the hive makes sense to you. It's that kind of weird thing of just having lived in this sort of awful shithole long enough that you're just like, oh, like fucking of course there's a building in the middle of the road because that's just the way it went.
Yeah, like it's the same kind of stupid all the way through.
Yes, 100%. So you're both making excellent time, but you look back and notice that the Inquisitor is having a slightly more difficult time. He's still making, like, I think, Lyric, you're actually impressed to see that he doesn't completely suck at this. This is an interesting aside. I know we're in the middle of an action scene, but I think it's worth it. How much have you ever really thought about the Imperium, or do you think about the Imperium?
It hasn't affected my day-to-day at all, except I know like Kel would occasionally like do some, like be hired by an Inquisitor or something, like usually through like a contact of a contact,
right,
to like, you know, hunt some like probably in their scale, like low level bounties for them.
Yep.
So it made some money from the Inquisition. But also, Alto and I did have an older sister. Like before our lives went to shit, she left to join the Inquisition, and we have not heard of her since.
Right. So very,
That's it.
yeah. And I like the interesting piece about kind of how the 40K universe is built is like everyone in the Imperium like worships the Emperor as a god and like is aware, or at least even if they don't worship him, consider like the theology of blah blah blah. So cool. So distant thing, kind of like vaguely aware of it, but it's a
I'm aware that it's like of importance to some people, but to me, I'm kind of indifferent.
Great. So to you then, I think this is 2 things. One, it's you're impressed because you kind of, I think at this point maybe assumed that most Inquisitors were bureaucrats.
Yeah.
Because the only Imperials you've probably ever actually met are bureaucrats. So seeing, and like low level, like like the PDF, like the Planetary Defense Force types, definitely not Imperial Guard here. And the only Space Marine you've ever come in contact with is our old sweet helmet at Blanc's. So you're impressed to see how capable he is. It's easy to swing out a chainsword from a trench coat and look impressive, but he actually seems to be handling himself well. But he doesn't know the streets the way you do. So it's a lot of like when you see Alto like cut left, your brain is kind of naturally following that, but you see him actually slow to kind of determine where to go. So we'll say that you spend your kind of extra triumph to cancel out his disadvantage, so he's able to keep pace. Alto, you're leading the crew. What does agility look like to you? Like, what does this sort of sprinting scene read as?
It is very similar to what you were kind of describing, where it's sort of got like a free running feel to it, where it's He doesn't kind of crash up against anything. He either like slides under, ambles over, dips to the side, like very rarely losing like forward momentum.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think from the rear then, Valentyne, the need to kind of prove your worth increases ever so slightly because this is well outside of kind of your experience. But you are encouraged to see Lyric kind of begrudgingly help you, like, even if it's just yelling, like, left, duck, left, AB, start select, that sort of shit. So the three of you kind of as a weird, like, running mob make pretty good time. However, you are alarmed as you continue to see these crash pods. Valentyne, to see crew members from the Gilead ambling out, and it's more of kind of these twisted warp monsters. The good news is the warp monsters begin to fight the good old-fashioned irradiated radioactive mutants and kind of cover your exit. But coming from the Inquisition, you know that whatever happened in the warp clearly tainted the ship, and now the ship has tainted the hive. So
this world's fucked.
It is getting destroyed real soon. So suddenly the need to get off world is no longer just, I'd like to go. It's,
I have to get off world and then order its destruction.
yeah. And honestly, based on the fact that the Gilead's fist crashed here, the minute they lost contact with that ship in the warp, like, they were just standing by. So you're sure with the transponder that whatever ships are in the fleet are closest. Also, this wasn't the intended destination, so you probably have, like, you have more time than you would. Yeah, there's a little bit of time. There's not a lot of time. There's a little bit of time. But yeah, this is definitely like a get the fuck out of Dodge situation. So all of you reach a small broken down kind of ramen restaurant that has clearly been abandoned for some time. And as you approach, you see kind of the faded sign reads Kelsey's, and there's just Kel always had just like a weird, like, snarky streak when it came to all this sort of cloak and dagger bullshit. And I think for both of you, it's there's kind of a feeling of, like, fucking of course.
Yeah.
And as you rush in, like, the place has clearly been abandoned for some time. But Alto, kind of looking around, you're able to find sort of the trick door easily enough. And using your arm, you're able to kind of, like, it's not trap locked or anything, but it's a complex enough lock. But she taught you how to build these, so it's an easy enough thing to disassemble. And as you open it, you see it leads to kind of a service shaft, so an old rusted sort of metal runged ladder that's just those weird rungs that are just fully, like, drilled into the wall. And down below, you can hear kind of the whistle of air from the vent system. That said, you can see dust and debris being kind of blasted down along it. So it'll be unpleasant, but you can see the direction it's going, which should guide you towards the exit. What do you do?
I wave everyone in. I just can, like, I'm the first one on the scene. And Lyric isn't far behind. How far behind is Valentyne? Like,
because she's been helping him along, like, I would say, like, a couple feet behind her, but it's not like we got there and then he's, like, rushing to keep up. It's like he's not as agile or nimble in this sort of situation, but he's pretty close. But if you wanted, like, a quick second alone with
no, it wasn't that.
You have it.
No. Okay, it wasn't anything like that. I wanted to make sure that everyone was here before we go to the next part.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. No, he's keeping pace. I would have punished him more, but Laura rolled real well. And also, like, you didn't roll badly, Ryan. You just rolled badly enough.
So I get there. I open that door, and I basically that's enough time for everyone else to kind of catch up and get inside. And I just convey to everyone, like, should be right through here. And I gesture to the light.
All right, well, perhaps we could save names for later. Right now, I feel like we should go. I have some exciting news. There are very strong odds that this hive will be obliterated from orbit within a random amount of time I'm not aware of. So I'm thinking perhaps we should move quickly, friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's all you had to fucking say. Let's go.
And with that lyric, you shove Valentyne into the hole, which, incidentally, Valentyne is going fast. So, like, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Alto, you climb in afterwards. You're sort of beginning to make your way down, and you're basically the one who's going to like close the hatch. You take one last look, kind of back at the only sort of home or city you've ever known. What's your kind of final thought looking back as you slam this door?
Whatever. I hated this stupid place anyways.
And with that, you lock the grate and disappear into the vent systems.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Alto, Laura Elizabeth at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Lyric, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited by Ryan LaPlante, and the Valentyne Heresy's show logo was created by Decapitated Markers at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, provided by freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, DM Rob, Christopher Little, Olin Anderson, Sue 1, Devin Boyce, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Anthony Griffin, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.